Ever feel like you're just mashing buttons as a protection warrior and hoping for the best? You're not alone. In this guide, I'm cutting all the noise and showing you exactly how to play Protection Warrior the right way. From surviving the nastiest hits to squeezing out maximum damage and threat. If you want real answers, stick around because by the end you'll know why you're pressing every button, and your group will feel the difference. Protection Warrior is about control, managing how and when you take damage. Your core loop is about rage. You generate rage by blocking, attacking, and getting hit. Your job is to spend it efficiently, first on survival, then on dealing damage. So let's start with the survival part first, since that's your first goal, staying alive. Shield block is your main defense. Each time you press it, you block every melee hit for several seconds. Most dangerous boss and trash abilities are blockable, so keeping shield block up whenever you're actually tanking is what keeps you alive. Shield block costs 30 rage, has 2 charges, and only useful if something is actively hitting you. Don't waste charges when you're not taking melee hits. Ignore Pain is your backup layer. It absorbs damage, up to 30% of your max HP, for 12 seconds. Use it to smooth spikes or to handle magic or unblockable damage. Don't spam it. Use it when you're floating at 60 to 80 rage or when you're about to cap rage. Always save enough rage for shield block when you need it. Once your survival is handled, meaning you've got shield block running and you're not about to take a dangerous hit, your next decision is how to spend leftover rage for damage. If your target is above 20% health, use Revenge as your primary rage spender. It hits hard, and if you're in an AoE situation, damages all nearby enemies. When your target drops below 20% HP, Execute becomes available and takes priority for single target burst. Use it to finish bosses or high priority enemies, but remember, it only hits one target, so don't swap off Revenge for big AoE pulls just because Execute is glowing. Apart from rage management, playing Protection Warrior also means juggling cooldowns and stances for maximum impact. For cooldowns, you have 2 types. Offensive cooldowns like Avatar, Demoralizing Shout, Ravager, Thunderous Roar, and Shield Charge. These give you a spike in damage and rage generation. Use them as often as possible to keep your damage and rage flowing. And defensive cooldowns like Shield Wall, Last Stand, Spell Reflection, and Spell Block. You don't just save these for emergencies, use them proactively before a dangerous boss hit or a big pull, not as a panic button when you're already low. You can also switch between defensive stance and battle stance. Defensive stance cuts all damage you take by 16%, use it when you know heavy damage is coming or when you need to play it safe. Battle stance increases your outgoing damage and threat. Stick with this for most pulls if you aren't in danger of dying, but don't be afraid to swap to defensive stance if things get dicey. There's also Violent Outburst, a passive proc that empowers your next Shield Slam or Thunderclap after you've spent 250 rage. Outburst is usually best spent on Shield Slam if you have fewer than 7 targets, but for big pulls with more than 7 enemies, you can use it on Thunderclap for big burst of AoE damage and threat. Most of the time though, in real pulls you'll get more out of Shield Slam and it will be used for Outburst 99% of the time. Before we move on, one quick note about your talents. For your talent tree, there's an important decision between Into the Fray and Heavy Repercussions. If you have 16,000 haste or more, pick Into the Fray for extra stats. If you have less than 16,000 haste, pick Heavy Repercussions for more shield block uptime and mitigation. The reason behind this is technical and not worth getting into for most players. This is just what's recommended by the top protection warriors based on my own testing. Follow it if you want optimal results. Now that you know the basics of managing rage, defensives, and cooldowns, let's look at how the Colossus Hero Talents build on top of this and change your priorities. Honestly, Colossus is super simple. It adds one extra button. Demolish. That's it. Demolish is a short channel that hits really hard. and your job is to use it on cooldown. Just make sure your target's gonna survive the whole cast. Now you can make Demolish hit even harder by stacking up Colossal Might. You get stacks from Shield Slam. More stacks means more damage, but don't stress about it too much. The perfect play is using Demolish at 10 stacks, but in reality just hit it when it's up. Holding it is usually worse than using it with fewer stacks. The rest of your gameplay doesn't change. Keep chasing Shield Slam resets, keep your rotation rolling, and don't forget Demolish. So with that colossal foundation in mind, let's break down exactly how your priorities change in the single target fights. This is where everything comes together in your actual rotation. When you're playing Protection Warrior on a boss or a single target, your entire gameplay revolves around managing cooldowns and maximizing rage generation. You don't follow a fixed sequence, you follow a priority system. The idea is simple. Always press the most impactful button that's available, and don't let your core abilities sit unused. Let's break down how you should think about your rotation. Start with your major cooldowns. These are the buttons that hit the hardest, give you big bursts of rage, or supercharge your next attacks. Think Avatar, Demoralizing Shout, Ravager, Demolish, Thunderous Roar, and Shield Charge. All of these have long cooldowns, usually 45 seconds or longer. Why do you press them first? For two reasons. The first is they give you the most value every time you use them. And the second one is the sooner you use a cooldown, the sooner it will be back up for another round later down in the fight. More uses equals more damage and rage overall. Next, keep up your core abilities rolling. Once you've put your big cooldowns on a timer, you focus on your regular abilities: Shield Slam, Thunderclap, Execute, and Revenge. Shield Slam is your main one. Use it as soon as it's ready. This is your biggest rage generator, and keep stacking up Colossal Might for Demolish. The whole spec revolves around pressing Shield Slam on cooldown and proccing resets. Thunderclap is your main tool for spreading rend and picking up a little extra rage. If Shield Slam isn't ready, this is usually your next button. Execute is only available when the target is under 20% HP. It costs rage, but it hits much harder than Revenge. Use it if you're not desperate to spend rage on survival. And of course, Revenge is your filler rage spender. Press it when you don't need to save rage for Ignore Pain or Shield Block. If you look at just the cooldown timers, it already makes sense. Strongest, longest cooldown abilities first, that way you get maximum value. Your regular abilities fill the gaps, making sure you're always doing something productive with your global cooldown. Remember, your number one job is to survive. If you're ever in a danger of capping rage, spend it on Ignore Pain. If your active mitigation is handled and you're not about to die, use your rage to push more damage either with Revenge or Execute. When you pull a big group, your job as a Protection Warrior shifts. You're not just worrying about one target, you need to control the whole pack and keep every mob glued to you. Your damage, threat, and survival all depend on how well you do that. The first thing you'll notice is that your abilities with strong AoE impact shoot up in value. Thunderous Roar spreads bleeds across the whole pack for steady damage, while Shield Charge isn't just for closing gaps as an extra charge, it's a quick stun and a huge threat burst. Leading with these means you can establish control fast and keep mobs off your group. The real star of AoE is Revenge. Forget Execute. When there's a crowd, you want to slam Revenge as often as you can. Not only does it deal heavy damage to all enemies in front of you, but it also spreads your bleed and helps trigger Shield Slam resets, which feeds into your rage generation. And if you're thinking about pressing Whirlwind, don't. It's a trap. Revenge outclasses it in every way for Protection Warriors. AoE tanking is about being aggressive and fast. You could open with Thunderclap or Revenge to grab aggro quickly. Protection Warrior is extremely fluid in its gameplay. If you keep Shield Block active, spend your rage efficiently, and actually use your cooldowns instead of saving them for later, you'll be harder to kill and your group will notice the difference. Don't chase unnecessary complexity. Master the basics and you'll see improvements fast. There's plenty more depth to explore, but to keep this video nice and short, I've only focused on the essentials for you to start playing Protection Warrior immediately. If you find this guide useful, like the video, Subscribe to the channel and leave a comment if you have any questions. As always, I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.